We are in the age of plastic. Most of our everyday items contain some type of plastic. An item of plastic that I would like to address in particular is the plastic utensil. Please raise your hand if you have used a plastic utensil within this last week. Now please keep your hand raised if you have thrown away a plastic utensil within this last week. Thank you. Hello, my name is Chau, and today I am going to be talking about how making a habit out of carrying around our own metal utensil would have a significantly positive effect on the environment. This claim is supported by how, 1, plastic has become substantially used more as our culture has become more heavily dependent on the material. 2, carrying metal utensils would reduce the amount of resources wasted in the United States to produce plastic. And 3, the habit of carrying metal utensils would reduce the use and therefore production of plastic utensils. So going back to my first claim, plastic has become more heavily used in our culture. Over the course of World War II, most plastic discovered were monopolized by the military. According to the Scientific American, the production of plastic during the war, nearly quadrupling from 213 million pounds in 1939 to 818 million pounds in 1945. Since then, our use of plastic has changed by tons, literally. According to Leighton Pill and Rachel Steffens, on average, 300 million tons of plastic are produced around the globe each year. In 2008, 34 million tons of plastic was disposed of in the United States. Of this, 86% ended up in landfills. Can anyone tell me how many pounds there are in a ton? 2,000. So please compare the 818 million pounds in 1945 to the 34 million tons in 2008. This is a huge difference that is only increasing as our culture has become more dependent on this material. So why is plastic so bad for the environment, and how does this relate to metal utensils? This leads to my second claim. By carrying metal utensils, we would reduce the amount of water and energy used to reduce plastic, as well as the amount of waste created from production. An article by Andrew Bernier, titled A Life Cycle Analysis of Plastic Fork, breaks down the resources needed to manufacture 1 pound of either polypropylene or polystyrene, the 2 main plastics used in creating plastic utensils. The total amount of water used would be 25.66 gallons. According to the World Wildlife Fund, water wastage has created deserts, poisoned millions of hectares of land, and killed entire lakes, in some cases even making them disappear. Additionally, IMO Senin from the Water Now Alliance states that producing water is an energy-intensive process that requires non-renewable fossil fuels. Fossil fuels brings us to energy and waste. Total energy amount is 20.62 kilowatts, and the total amount of solid waste and CO2 is 0.142 pounds of solid waste and 4.18 pounds of CO2 emissions. The Environmental Health News tells us that 8% of the world's oil production goes towards manufacturing plastic. The U.S. Energy Information Administration states that producing energy uses fossil fuels, whose waste and chemical emissions cause the greenhouse effect, acid rain harmful to plants and animals in the water, contributes to ground-level ozone, and produces heavy metals hazardous to animal health. The liquid and solid waste produced creates extensive damage and pollution downstream. So what about biodegradable plastic, which is manufactured to break down easily in air and sunshine? These are arguably just as bad for the environment as regular plastic. Canada's Environment and Plastics Industry Council estimates that 2/3 of the plastic in landfill could be considered biodegradable. However, nothing is actually meant to decompose in landfills, in which air, moisture, and sunlight are purposely kept out of landfills in order to cut down on greenhouse emissions. Which means that if biodegradable plastic were to break down, it would release the greenhouse gases, methane and CO2, which contributes hugely to global warming. This goes to show that action is the key to defending the environment against plastic, which brings me to my third and final point. The habit of carrying around a metal utensil will reduce the use and therefore production of plastic utensils. According to Nancy Trent in Ending Takeout Waste, it is estimated that close to 40 billion individual plastic utensils are produced each year. Bringing your own metal utensil will reduce the waste of plastic utensils given out by restaurants and used daily. Hartz, a company that creates products based on environmental sustainability, states that in 2009, almost 50% of the $1.2 trillion that Americans spent for food went to food that was taken out from restaurants or delivered to their homes. More than 100 million pieces of plastic utensils are used and thrown out by Americans every day. Again, most of this ends up in landfill, where it can leach harmful chemicals into the air and earth. Bringing your own cutlery may seem inconvenient and strange. However, the BYO, or Bring Your Own concept, is a growing movement. B. Wilson of The Guardian informs of how China and Japan have adopted a Bring Your Own chopstick movement, as between 57 and 80 billion pairs of chopsticks are thrown away annually in China alone, meaning that a lot of forest is cut down. So, how many of you know about the plastic bag ban, in which we can no longer receive free plastic bags from grocery stores and are now encouraged to bring our own bags? Okay. By a show of hands, how many of you own a reusable water bottle? Okay. So, in America, we have recognized that plastic bags and disposable water bottles are a problem to the environment. However, we have fallen short on giving plastic cutlery the same amount of urgency. In conclusion, making a habit of carrying around our own metal utensils in lieu of using plastic ones will cut down on the plastic production and create a positive impact on the environment. Thank you.
All right, propositions clearly identified. There's an excellent layout of what the supporting structure is. I think you've got an interesting environmental perspective on this that gives us a reason to pay attention to what's being said. Internal structure is relatively clear. The second point is where there has to be a little bit more explanation of a couple of points. I think you give us good context with the first point. The second point is where you've got listed all the harms that come from the plastic in the environment. And there are a lot of numbers there, but of course, the numbers are hard to specify to the utensils that you talk about. There are a couple of places where you do have some specific information about the utensils, like the 100 million that get thrown away on a daily basis, or how much ends up in the landfills. I thought that was pretty good. What we don't get is how much total water gets used and how much of the problem with water resources are related to this sort of thing. Same sort of thing with the fossil fuels. Obviously, there's a link there, but how significant it is, I think that's one of the things that probably would be poo-pooed by people who simply say, "Oh, we probably use that much fossil fuel turning on the air conditioning half an hour early, that it would not make much difference." But I don't know, because I don't really have enough context to tell. I thought you did a very good job, though, explaining the concept and giving us a reason to believe that it's true. You do a solid job speaking to the audience. I thought your sources were good. Like I said, I thought there was nice statistical information and some testimony in the presentation. It's not all specific to utensils, but you did a good job making it seem reasonable to make some inferences from the data that you did have. And although the audience survey thing is a little bit awkward, the one thing I thought was most appropriate when you were doing that, when you're making the analogy to people carrying their own refillable bottles, you might simply say, that's exactly what we're talking about. Nobody worries about that now. Nobody thinks that's particularly strange. Well, all we're talking about is one more step would make a big difference here. Interestingly enough, it also suggests a line of reasoning. Can you demonstrate that because people carry their own water bottles that we've had a substantial reduction in plastic bottles that are in landfills and problems like that? Because that would be one of the things that I think would be kind of incumbent on you. You're the one making that argument. All right. Thank you.